Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. Oh my god, starting the video with the cat hair in my eye. It has been so long since I did a sit down video. I've just been so busy with starting a new job and trying to figure out when I have time to film things and do things. So yeah, it feels very nice to sit down. Just want to say I'm sorry if my posting schedule is all over the place. Like I said, trying to figure stuff out. Yeah, make sure that you subscribe to my channel and turn on the notifications. Best way to make sure that you are notified when I post new videos. And also follow me on Instagram because I do post there when I post new videos. Okay, let's get into it. June books. Definitely a little all over the place. Not what I expected. So yeah, let's get into it. So first, I read The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. Said it right on the first time, guys. I always mess up this name. So this is a new adult historical fantasy. This book follows a girl, Addie LaRue, who makes a deal with the devil. He's not like called the devil, but he's kind of like, you know, a version of the devil. So she makes a deal with the devil where she will live forever, but no one remembers her. Right after she talks to someone, they instantly forget her. And she goes 300 years before she does meet someone who does remember her. So that's kind of the premise of the story. The story is told very slowly. It is something that happens throughout the whole entire book. So the chapters kind of like alternate in between the past and present, and the past and everything is told throughout the whole entire novel. So if you're looking for like a really like fast-paced novel, this isn't exactly it. But while it's slow, it's still very captivating. Like within the first 30 pages, I was totally into this novel. It got me hooked. Sometimes fantasy novels can be very confusing, you know, if there's too much info dumping, but this was written very well. It was very, you can tell that it was like purposely written this way to slowly unfold throughout the whole entire story. This book was also written quite beautifully. The language of it was very poetic in nature, but not pretentious in any way. Sometimes you read books and you can tell that they're trying to be fancy, and this isn't it. It just adds to the beauty of the book. I also have to say too that it, like with the pacing as well, because you're alternating between the past and the present, sometimes when you have that type of dynamic in a book, or if you're switching in between points of views, you favor one over the other, but that didn't happen with this at all. I equally liked both the past and the present sections. Now kind of where like the book kind of like fall down for a little bit is like people said that like you would have an existential crisis by reading this book, and it was definitely true. I also think because I got some like personally sad news at the same time I was reading this book, so I feel like it kind of amplified a lot of the feelings that I was having while I was reading it. So I was basically a mess for 2 days after reading this book. I think I kind of like vlogged it a little bit in one vlog where you saw like the beginning of it, but like the day after I finished it, I was just a mess. I was kind of like, someone described it as floating, and that's a very accurate feeling where you just feel like detached from your body. So it's one of those things where it's like when I'm reading books, I try to be critical but also take in kind of like my gut feelings towards the books. When I love a book, I'm like, okay, that's 5 stars. The thing is that I didn't necessarily love this book. Like I didn't finish this book being like, oh my god, this is the best book ever. Like it hurt me. So it's kind of hard to be like, yeah, you're amazing, because it's like it hurt me. But at the same time, I think that is a sign of a really good book. Because not every single book needs to make you feel happy. I think it created an intense emotional reaction out of me. So I think that is a sign of a good book. Well, not anger. Anger is not necessarily something I want to feel from a book. I gave this 5 out of 5 stars because while I didn't necessarily like, there are parts of this book that I really love, but it was just such an intense book and it was just written so well. And one of my other main things of like how I qualify giving something 5 out of 5 stars is there isn't anything I would change about this book. Sometimes there's things about the book that I would change, and therefore I don't think I could give it 5 stars, but there's nothing in here that I would change. I think V. Schwab had an idea of what she wanted to write and she accomplished it beautifully. So I definitely recommend this book, but just be prepared if you're in not necessarily the best mental state, or if you're just not in the mood for something sad, you know, hold off on this book. But if you are strong and ready to get wrecked, then go ahead. So originally I was going to read a different book next, but after reading such a sad book, I wanted something a little happier. So that's why I read Beauty Queens next. Actually, I read another book in between, but it's a part of a series, so we're gonna save it after and go into this one next. So I love this book, but I definitely don't think this is everyone's cup of tea. So this is a YA contemporary humor or comedy book. It is a satire, and this story follows a group of beauty pageant contestants who crash land on what they think is a deserted island. Very interesting premise. It definitely takes a second to understand the writing because this is from a third person perspective, but the third person has a very strong voice. I don't want to reveal too much. There's also a lot of like footnotes. So they do like this where they do footnotes, and they also do funny entries as well. So they do, what do they call this? Fun facts page about all the different characters. They do commercial skits. They will do they'll do interviews and stuff, so it's not told in like your typical fashion. So it definitely takes a second to get used to the way that the story is told, but that just like adds to the book, if you ask me. This book definitely gives me I know this might be a random comparison, but it gives me Phineas and Ferb's vibe. And if you guys watch Phineas and Ferb as a kid, that show is like pretty wacky. Like, it's a kid's cartoon show. You won't enjoy the show if you take it for face value and you're like, well, this is impossible, but it's not improbable. It's not impossible, but it's very improbable, the events that happen in the book. So if you're like, this doesn't make any sense, you're not gonna have any fun. Just like with Phineas and Ferb, you basically just need to like take it how it is and just run with it, and then you'll really enjoy it, if that makes any sense. Just because there's a lot of like wacky things that happen in this book. Another thing that definitely I think impacts how much someone would enjoy this book is that this is full of late 2000s references. It was published in 2011, so the book is 10 years old. Something to keep in mind. Like, in general, I find that you need to consider when a book was published, because, you know, I think in many ways this book was ahead of its time, but obviously there's still things that like 10 years later like you could like critique. But anyways, so this was published 10 years ago. This is about like late 2000s culture. So if you don't really know a lot about late 2000s pop culture, you won't get a lot of the references and the comedy, and therefore you won't enjoy it. I grew up during this time. I got what the commentary was all about. I knew it, so I was like, this is funny what they're making fun of. I mean, because this is a satire, this book is critiquing a lot of different things. It's critiquing like media and pop culture during that time. It's talking a lot about capitalism and big corporations. It talks a lot about beauty standards, obviously, because it is about beauty pageants. It talks a lot about other things like stereotypes. They talk about sexism. They talk about like class issues. They talk about racism as well, especially like within media and the beauty pageants. So there's like an Indian girl and there's also a black girl, so talking about like how they relate to beauty pageants and beauty standards in media. There's also a trans character, which is really amazing to see in something that was published 10 years ago, because even today it's like you don't often see trans characters. There's lesbian and a bi character, and there's someone with a disability. There is someone who is deaf, so lots of different great representation. Obviously, I think they could go even more in depth into some of the topics, but I think it's a very good way to start talking about some of these topics. There is some romance in this novel, but it's like not the main focus whatsoever, but it's more about the female friendships that are formed in this book, which I really enjoy. Overall, I really like this book. I thought it was super funny. It was exactly what I needed after reading Addie LaRue, just something like fun, lighthearted, but also has some social commentary, so it's not like completely derivative. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars because I thought it was funny and hilarious, but I can totally understand why people didn't like this book. Okay, and now let me get out my iPad for this. So if you are not on book TikTok, you're probably going to think I'm crazy with what I'm about to say, but basically, Kind of happened that over one weekend, I don't even know how or why it blew up, but it was just like everyone was talking about this one romance series, and well, curiosity killed the cat. I had to read it for myself, so I did. So I will show you the books. You'll see the cover and you'll kind of get it. I read the Planet Barbarian books. I haven't really ever read any romance novels really, but I've never read like an actual romance novel. So yes, Planet Barbarians. So I read the first book is, sorry, the glare. Planet Barbarians is the first book. Barbarian Alien is the second book. And then finally, Barbarian Lover is the third book. These books are adult romance sci-fi novels. They follow a group of girls, so every single book is a different girl and a different couple. These are human girls who are abducted by aliens, and then they crash land on this other planet and meet these like friendlier aliens. And these friendlier aliens, the men, they're tall, like I think they're like 7 feet or something like that. They are blue and they have horns and a tail, and they are ribbed. They have like ridges all over their body. So just, you know, you're using your imagination as a romance novel, and there are ridges and ribs everywhere. Okay, you get where I'm going. So is this totally like, it's just such like a funny concept, but somehow these books are just so good and so addictive, and you just read them so quickly. Like people on TikTok, there are 22 books in total in the series. Okay, there are people on TikTok that were like, within the week, they were like, I've read 3 books, I've read like 9 of the books. You can go through them very quickly. Like I got through the first one in 2 days, and I could have easily done it in a day if I like didn't sleep. The other ones took me a little longer because I was just like busy with other stuff, but yes, you get through them very quickly. There is just enough information where I'm not going like, what the fuck, the whole entire time. Because you know, with like sci-fi and like the whole entire idea of like alien abduction, you need to give some information, otherwise it just doesn't make any sense, right? You need to fill in some holes and some gaps. So Ruby Dixon was able to do that. She was able to give the bare minimum for me to be like, okay, I can go along with this, but there isn't like too much information. It's kind of like romance first, sci-fi second. Just a bare minimum for you to just go along with the story. The first book is a little traumatizing. There is some rape and sexual assault. So, I mean, I basically told you the trigger warnings. So yeah, in the beginning of the novel, when they're like abducted, the like first aliens are kind of like really shitty. So yeah, just something to keep in mind. And kind of like, you kind of have to go over this hurdle to be able for the book to get good. And then after that, so good. Second book I think is my favorite because you've kind of gotten all of the backstory and like world building in the first book done, so you can kind of just like enjoy it and like go for the ride. And like Liz, the girl in the second book, is like definitely my favorite out of the 3 that I read. And if you're curious, I read these books through Kindle Unlimited. That's why a lot of people are reading them too, because if they had Kindle Unlimited, they're free. So I got the free month subscription. So I read the 3 for free. Basically, I kind of lost a little bit of steam because I was reading the 3rd book when I started working, and I was just like so tired after work. Also, I've been like watching Formula 1 Netflix TV show. I've mentioned that, and it's kind of hard for me to like read books and watch TV at the same time. So I've been focusing more on TV. So the combination of work and TV meant that I just wasn't reading as much. So I definitely lost steam, and I'm not going to read any more. But that doesn't mean I wouldn't read more in the future. I'm kind of like, I read 3 in a row. I'm like, okay, I'm like done with this. I want to read something else. I get like that. I can't read one genre for a while. I like to like flip-flop in between different things. So while I'm done for now with these books, I could see myself going back. Especially these are great books if you're ever in a reading slump. Like I said, they're like 150 to like 250 pages. They're really quick, really fun. The romance is really good in the books. I really enjoy them. You know, there's some like spicy scenes in them. So definitely really fun. I rated the first book 4.5 out of 5 stars. Because like I said, some not so fun stuff at the beginning. And then the second 2 I rated 5 out of 5 stars because they were just so much fun. Like, you know, not everything has to be some like super serious classics or super sad books. Sometimes you just want something fun, and those books accomplish that for me. So while I didn't read the books that were on my TBR, I still read 5 books this month, so pretty impressive if you ask me. I'm actually ahead in my reading goal according to Goodreads. I will be posting a review on my blog for Addie, LaRue, and Beauty Queens. I won't be talking about Planet Barbarians. We're gonna leave it out here. That review will be going up on Tuesday, so I'll link it down. I'll update the description box once it is up. Now let's go into July TBR. This is going to be really fast because I'm basically just finishing the books that were in my June TBR, so I'll link up my June TBR. If you want like more explanation on like the books and stuff, I'm just gonna repeat it just in case. So I'm currently reading The Tattooist of Auschwitz. I am about halfway through, so yeah, we'll see. Yeah, we'll see how long it takes me to get through it. So far, not like, well, it's sad, but it's not like too sad. I've studied enough about World War II that it's just like what is happening isn't surprising to me anymore. I know what is happening, so yeah, not too sad. Pretty good so far. And then next, I am finally going to read The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I feel like this has been on my TBR for months now, and I keep on not getting to it, so I'm going to read it next. Next, I'm finally going to read Akatar. I think the books are upside down, aren't they? Yeah, they are. So I did get the books in, so I'm going to read Court of Thorns and Roses and make my way through the series. I don't know how far I'll get. I don't think I'll read the whole entire series because, I mean, some of the later books, they're thick books. So I don't think I'll get through the whole entire series, but we're gonna start it and we'll see how far I get. So yeah guys, that is it for today's book video. I hope you enjoyed it. As always with my book videos, let me know in the comments down below what you read this month, if you have any recommendations for me, and if you read any of these books, let me know what your thoughts. Do you agree with my thoughts? Do you disagree with me? Let me know. I love to discuss books, so we can do that in the comments. Please like this video if you want to see more book content from me, and subscribe to my channel like I said at the beginning. That is it for today's video, and I'll see you in another one super soon. Bye!